Tamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
So yesterday we saw 23, did we see 25?
Yes.
27. Oh, we are at 27? Okay. One thing I liked what we did yesterday is, when I asked you guys a question, that what do we mean by having kind of a healthy mind, which is a grown-up mind, certain things you yourself said, I would like to write it down because probably you produced a better list than I would have. It was very nice, I liked it. Because you can keep talking about growing, but you don't exactly know because it's multifaceted. So you need to keep in mind what all is involved for the growth. Okay?
So this is the first step, and then, as I said this morning, then what are the areas where maybe you need to work upon, right?
Exactly.
And where are your strong areas, where you can
Exactly.
really say, wow, I'm quite good at that, but in this one maybe I can grow further, right?
Exactly. See, why? Because human growth, suppose I talk about values, our mind is relatively, simple, and it just will think, oh yeah, I'm not hurting anybody, I'm not lying, I'm not cheating, so I'm good. But here, there are so many aspects, so many dimensions. So we need to reflect a little bit, and that also can be subject of contemplation, right? I mean, or even just effort. So I would like for you all to repeat what you told me yesterday. What does the growth or human growth, which makes you ready for the final understanding, what does it mean to you, or how is it explained in Bhagavad Gita? What all it entails?
So, following Dharma.
Following Dharma.
Emotional maturity.
Following Dharma. Emotional maturity.
Resilience.
Very good. Emotional maturity, resilience to
Good self-image.
Accommodation.
very good. Wow. Good self-image.
Or you can say
Good. 1 minute. Good self-image. Then somebody said what? Accommodation.
What's meant by accommodation?
Accommodation, by what I mean is that we are constantly trying to control people. In the sense that, the more we love people, the more we want them to be the way we want them to be. So allowing people to be who they are. And, at the same time, understanding where they are coming from. Because generally we only stop at, oh, this behavior I just don't like, right? But we don't take enough time to understand where that behavior is coming from. So that whole thing, so that means if you have to keep distance to protect yourself, it's okay, but you don't carry such huge judgments and opinions and resentment when you have accommodation. Okay. What else?
Non-binding.
Ishwar.
Non-binding.
Excellent. Desires are mastered, so what it means is that the desires are non-binding in nature. Okay.
Connection with
Discretion
Ishwar.
in action.
Huh?
Discretion in action.
Yeah, discretion in action, would it fall within dharma or not?
Well, as to know what you can do and to what extent you can do something, to what extent you can do something.
Yeah, exactly. So that means your ability to discern to what extent you can actually change things and what you cannot. So that kind of a discerning power. Very good. With reference to what I can change and what I cannot change. Okay. What else? Connection to Ishvara. Wonderful. This is human growth. This is interesting. This is not at the level of mind.
Negation of ownership.
Excellent. Trusteeship. So, trusteeship, which is absence of ownership. You are not denying your connection, but it is converted from ownership to trusteeship.
Acknowledging helplessness.
Wow. Hey, you guys are just too smart. Okay, wonderful, because if I had sat down, I would not probably have produced as exhaustive result as the collective effort of everyone. Acknowledging helplessness. These are all very subtle values, but they are very, very true. It is healthy mind which actually understands the reality of being human and then works from there rather than is in denial of certain strength which doesn't exist, which is not true. Wonderful. So that means acknowledging one's helplessness at times.
Lack of pretense.
Wow. Okay. Lack of pretense.
Non-violence.
Non-violence. Oh, so somebody's reading the book. So there is a value of values and it has I did cover non-violence.
You covered, no?
I covered. Wonderful.
Self-image. Self-image.
Yeah, I've already written. Self-image is here. Good self-image. Huh? Authenticity. Wonderful.
Or is this lack of pretense?
Yeah, I think authenticity is very important because it is not only acknowledging one's helplessness, but it also means that you acknowledge even for yourself what's going on with you, and that also requires certain amount of authenticity.
Willingness or readiness to know the truth.
Okay, yeah, that's the thing of exactly that you don't stop at the superficial level.
Yeah.
So that is also a beautiful
Or
thing.
gain knowledge.
Sorry?
Know the truth, gain knowledge.
Yeah.
Know the
So that's kind of, how would you put it?
Yes.
Determination.
Huh?
Determination.
Yeah, that I think persistence. But
Persistence.
first you must have the goal identification, and then you can have persistence with reference to that. So that means certain amount of discerning ability, I would say that.
We mentioned, I think.
Huh? That we, I think, discerning, discrimination, discerning. That's also one of the qualities of the mind. And in fact, you have to sharpen it, right? Ability to differentiate between ideas and what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. This is also part of growth, right? So, yeah.
Maybe reducing mechanical thinking and
Right.
deliberation.
Wow. Okay. Oh my God, it's amazing. Okay, reducing. I'm going to make a photo of this. Reducing mechanical thinking. And making it more deliberate. Okay.
Is meditation also involved? Or is
Meditation is a practice
Yes.
for all of this.
Yes.
You see what I
You're
mean?
looking
So
for
this is what you
results.
want to cultivate.
Are we looking for values?
So what I'm saying is, Bhagavad Gita is talking about growth and what is the quality of mind. How do you know that I'm a mature mind? I mean, whether I'm working or I'm going towards that growth or not. So these are the checklists. Exactly. Right.
Also, a willingness to, or fearlessness to move from a limited perspective to a larger.
Okay,
Broader.
which is very nice because I think what Turiya says is, I think this morning as we were saying, that on one hand you want to know more, but what your existing thinking is so deeply rooted in you that the mind has a resistance to actually move. Even if you somehow see, you want to negate that and come back to what you know, even though you know that it's inadequate. So how would you put that? Willingness to move forward and, sorry? Huh? Willingness to, giving up resistance to move to the next.
Ability to be
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
open to changes or giving up resistance to give up existing idea. No. Nandini is an expert at all that. So I'm writing a book with her, she's like, okay, Nandini, how would you put that?
What was the idea?
The idea is like giving up your resistance to new ideas and then willing to learn and shift to the next level rather than trying to somehow consciously or unconsciously hold on to your existing ideas. How would you describe
To be open-minded and flexible.
Okay. So giving up resistance to change and then open mind,
Openness to change.
openness to change. Okay, that's
You
great.
see things from different angles.
Openness to change. Okay, that's lovely. Shona is saying ability, this is a very big value, ability to see things from different perspectives and not just your own perspective. Wonderful. Now, this is like incredible. Ability to see things from all perspectives rather than only yours. Wonderful, Shona. Yeah, Stefan.
Taking responsibility for one's actions.
Wow, taking responsibility for one's actions, right? So many times you probably didn't follow dharma, right? All of us, it includes everyone, right? But then to take responsibility rather than be defensive and covering up and things like that, taking responsibility.
This is maturity,
No, all this consists of maturity. Suppose I say, I want to have a mind which is healthy and it is growing, these are the indicators. Because how do I know whether my mind is growing or not, right? You can always say, yeah, I'm listening to Gita, so therefore my mind, but what are the good indicators to see where you are is with reference to all these things. Andre?
Unceasing effort for self-inquiry.
Wow. That is wonderful. So how do you...
I'm adding one more, that is equanimity in the face of any result.
Yeah, so I think that comes in, I think, in the category of resilience, right? So that means situations come and go, and you have a certain resilience and equanimity. Okay, so this, the mind which is wanting to, what? Find out, self-inquiry, or what?
A commitment to self-inquiry.
Commitment to self-knowledge. Perseverance, or can we say that?
Perseverance.
Perseverance, can we say that? Towards anything. See, not only towards self-knowledge, anything that is important to you, what generally happens is, initially you're very enthusiastic, but soon you lose kind of interest. So that ability to persevere and make sure that you understand properly rather than just superficially say, now, okay, now I get. You see what I mean? So that kind of a general quality, perseverance.
See, in Sanskrit it's easy. Adhyatma, jnana, nityatva.
So everybody, I think
This is one of the values in this chapter.
Forgives.
Okay, that is okay. But did I talk about that? No. Now somebody has rumored to me, telling they're coming down. Whenever we add our own thought to it, like, oh, we have to forgive others, that all requires a big discussion and proper understanding, because this forgiving others is a very, it sounds wonderful, but it's a very tricky battle. Why? Because suppose I tell somebody, I forgive you, what is implied in that I forgive you? What does it mean?
That I am the one, I have the power to forgive the other.
Exactly. And the thing is, I have decided that I'm right and you're wrong, but I'm so big that I'm forgiving you. So it sounds wonderful that, oh, I'm forgiving you, but actually in that there is a certain amount of arrogance.
I think only if it's insincere.
So that means the better word is accommodation. Accommodation is a beautiful word because the way you understand situation may not be the situation. So you say, this is what I feel, but I kind of understand where it is coming from, right? And where that person could be. And if I have to keep a distance, I keep a distance, but there is not such a big judgment that she's a criminal and I'm forgiving. You see what I mean?
But I think that's what you call a low level of forgiveness. Because if we're genuinely forgiving, we've let go.
So that means that letting go, see, because forgiving somehow, as I told you, implies, right, that you're right and other person is wrong, and which could be right. I'm not saying, but many times it could be also the result of our perception, which may not be, it's just looking at the situation from one perspective and not entire story, which is very, very often the case, right? So that's why it's better to use a word which is conveying the same idea, but doesn't have such a strong connotation, right? Suppose even if you're right, accommodation is always valid, right? Suppose,
yes, except that accommodation, the way I understand the word, suggests that I'm allowing something to happen, allowing the person to be a particular way which may even be criminal or violent.
Okay.
So this is why the nuance for me doesn't really work.
Okay, so that the same thing can happen with forgiveness also, right? I mean, you can say, oh, I'm forgiving, so I'm allowing you to be whoever. These problems remain always. So this is why what I'm saying is, if you have to stay away, you have to stay away, but at the same time, somehow understand where that behavior could come from. If it doesn't suit you, it's not like you stay in the situation and allow the other person to abuse you, but at the same time, you have to, you do what you have to do without resentment. And then
your word understanding might be better.
Understanding, exactly. Understanding and accommodation. Accommodation means understanding exactly where that other person could be coming from, and without getting hurt, continuing to get hurt from that person, you kind of free yourself from resentment also. It means many different things.
In English, when we use the word accommodation, it's almost the equivalent of enabling.
So, I mean, see, forgiving is also kind of similar.
See,
It could
let's
mean
not
the
enter
similar
in
thing.
this. Let's see
similarly-
the spirit
I think
and the
let's see
meaning.
the spirit, what we are trying to say behind that word. Because, I mean, same thing could be for everything. You see what I mean?
compassion for myself and for others.
Right.
Great.
Compassion for myself and for you.
Compassion for myself and for others. That also kind of leads to understanding where other person is coming from. And you can keep your own distance, but you don't label the person. See, these are the things, I gave an example, which was a lovely example, that it's not like you are kind of in a delusionary state. So suppose, like Swamiji used to say, that somebody can take to crime, but that doesn't mean the person is criminal. So somebody has committed a crime to be the reality, but suppose you label the person as criminal, you've given a label, and you see what I mean? And then you understand that, yeah, people commit crimes because of some confusion, and that also is, in the long run, changeable. But if you feel that you don't want to associate with that person, you can always stay away or you take necessary actions. Okay, that's good. Compassion for oneself and for others. The more I become compassionate towards myself, more I'm able to, because I also have flaws, right? So that also, the one has to not be that self-critical person who's constantly also beating oneself up. So that is good. Sajini.
Trust.
Trust, very good. So we saw that there is a lack of trust which we develop in the childhood, right? And then that rediscovering the trust in the universe. That's a very, very big value, huge value, right? So rediscovering, we gave the example that how there are things which are fallible and your trust is violated and you live with lack of trust, and rediscovering that trust is wonderful.
Devotion.
Wow, it's like endless. Okay, wonderful. Shona.
Ability to convert emotions, like for example, from fear to action to solution.
Excellent.
Not to get stuck in that.
Okay, great. Ability to transform, which is what we saw through Rudra, right? So that initially when I say force of destruction, what it invokes in you is what? Fear, you want to stay away from it, but what? Converting. What is that converting? Seeing at first level, seeing the indispensability of force of destruction, without which the universe cannot operate. And secondly, using that force for your own advantage. That's a huge quality of the mind, which is, like we say, it's in a problem-solving mode rather than getting stuck with situation. Lovely. So how would you put that?
Under emotional maturity.
No, but emotional maturity need not always mean that, right? Emotional maturity means I deal with my fears, I deal with my... Yeah, probably. Probably. Yeah. But anyway, it's a good way. So within emotional maturity, we can say ability to convert, rather than denying the emotions or rather than kind of bypassing the emotions, your ability to convert, accept the emotion and convert it to your advantage. Maybe we can put it within.
I don't know the exact English word, Missgunst in Deutsch. It means, Missgunst in Germany. It means you can enjoy the power, the abilities of other people and jealousy or something like that.
Okay, yeah. So that is very nice, because generally what happens is that that smallness that we feel, if it is not nurtured, what happens is that when somebody is doing well, or if we think that that person is doing better than us, then what happens? It kind of invokes jealousy in us, right? So what is the non-distorted thinking is what? The mirror neurons, what do? whatever applies to you also applies to others. So just as you are happy with your accomplishments, you are also happy with others' accomplishments. So here it is a distorted picture. I feel small when I see somebody shining. So that is a distorted, because it reminds you of your smallness. It doesn't need to. You can celebrate somebody's talents. You see what I mean? Without feeling. Yeah. So yeah, good sense. I think it may be kind of if you have worked on your self-image, then maybe those things of jealousy, because jealousy actually does come from feeling small and insignificant and inadequate. Maybe it's true. So 1 second now. So where do I put? That is a good point. That because jealousy is a very common problem, right? That you constantly compare yourself with others, and the minute you think that somebody is shining a little bit more, you feel small. So that's a very common problem. So let's kind of good self-image within that subcategory can be good.
More, because I read this in a small book from Swamiji, and he
Yes.
said our problem is the competition.
Yeah.
And it starts in the school and it goes on in life. And this is a,
Sure. No, but that's true. But what is the source of that jealousy? I think we are trying to get into the smallness, right? So that's fine. Okay. Self-image. So that means if you have really worked on a healthy self-image, then this jealousy and things like that, it implies that you have worked on it.
But in the Buddhist tradition, they call it Vedanta, which is sympathetic joy. Sympathetic joy that you share in the
Happiness of others.
Is it not the same in Sanskrit?
It's not. Mudita is cheerfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this in
So that-
the Buddhist tradition is the opposite of jealousy.
Yeah. Exactly. So that means you learn to be happy when others are doing well.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Regardless of your own
Regardless of your own situation. Wonderful. Right? So this is why that's a very important quality. And what we say is that the highest form of that is not only you are happy when others are happy, but you actually use your free will to participate in others' well-being. So that is even one more level. Right? The others are happy and you are happy, wonderful, that is great. But now, I can do what I can to actually make somebody else's life, lift somebody else. That's a very, very big quality. It's not a small quality.
Maybe this fits all to this clarity towards one's sphere of influence.
Yeah. So let's add, does it come anywhere? Clarity with reference to one's sphere of influence means how much I can intervene and in that situation and how much I cannot. Maybe that comes under what I can change and what I cannot change. Do you think?
Yeah.
You think?
Or find out.
Sorry?
Maybe following karma a little bit. Change.
Karma. Yeah. Change, do you think?
No, change what I cannot change.
What I can change and what I can't. Right? So because that actually involves understanding what exactly is my sphere of influence in any given situation. How much I can participate and how much I actually is not in my immediate control. It could happen later that my sphere of influence increases later, but right now your ability to say, hey, if I'm concerned about this issue, concretely, what can I do about it right now? And doing what needs to be done. So you're right, it also falls a little bit after ascertaining, doing what needs to be done also comes under dharma a little bit. Yeah. So let's put it here. Where is, oh, wow. What I can change and what I cannot change.
Helplessness, maybe.
Yeah, that. No, it's not helpless. It's just being objective about what I can do of a given issue. It's a little different from, it is,
It's discrimination.
yeah, discrimination. It comes under discrimination, it can come, what I can, okay here, what I can, discerning power. With reference to what I can change and what I cannot change. So I think your sphere of influence can probably be subcategory of that. So, sphere of influence.
humbleness and the ability to ask for help.
Yeah. So that acknowledging helplessness,
But it's also the ability to do it. So you acknowledge you're helpless, but then
and
you
then
need,
ask for
you
help.
need to be able to.
Yeah. So that also it involves like conversion of helplessness from helplessness and worry to actually asking for help.
Confidence,
Right?
Maybe the confidence to ask.
Yeah. So that means here itself, acknowledging our helplessness and what? Asking for help.
Empathy?
Empathy. Empathy, does it already come from compassion? So what is the difference between empathy and compassion?
Compassion is a deeper word.
What does it mean, deeper?
It really goes into the heart of feeling something for another. Empathy still at its slight distance. You feel empathetic, but not deeply. I think compassion involves a certain amount of putting that person and the self in the same space and making that feeling happen.
I think empathy means, for me, empathy means that there is, again, it's a mirror neuron, that when, just as you can be without interference and without distortion, the mirror neurons do the job, that when you are happy, just as I'm happy, I feel happy, then when you are happy also, my brain, if it is not distorted, should send the same signal. That's the job of mirror neuron. And when you are unhappy or when you are sad, I pick up the pain. That is the job of empathy, right? So that means that the mirror neurons are able to not only think about the reactions within my own self, but also I do the same for others. For us, I mean, the way Swamiji talked about it is, empathy and compassion are slightly different in a way that suppose I feel empathy, right? Suppose you are in pain and I see that pain and I feel also the pain, but at the level of action I can always kind of tell, oh no, I can't do anything about it, without exploring enough what I can do. So what he used to say is that when you convert that empathy, which is a feeling, into an act of help, it becomes compassion, because you have strengthened it. You strengthen it because it is not only remaining at the level of mind, it is actually converted into an act of helping somebody out. So that's why compassion is one more level, but because so many times what happens is human mind is empathetic. This is the natural design, right? So when you normally, a child also sees somebody in pain, they'll go and help, because that's how the human mind is programmed. But over a period of time, what happens is we don't cultivate that empathy. So the one example that Swamiji used to always give, and it was a very interesting example. He said, suppose somebody comes to you and asks for help. Suppose, right? Suppose somebody says, yeah, I need, I don't know what, some amount of money for whatever. So actually, before listening to that person and totally understanding what exactly is the situation, what you can do, what you can't do, or whatever, while the person is explaining, you are preparing an answer. How to, politely say sorry. But, and why? Because what is the logic that you have to put aside your empathy? You tell yourself that, yeah, I empathize with this person, but I'm not in a position to help everyone, so that means I also cannot help this person. This is a very common feeling that people have. I'm not going to be able to solve the problem of everyone, financial difficulty or whatever it is. So now, that almost as though gives you a license of not help the person who is in front of you. So this is where Swamiji used to say that you have to make your feeling of empathy strong by listening to the person totally without trying to create some answers. Just listen to that person. And as I told you, the normal rationality is what? Suppose the person really needs, you do what you can, right? And that doesn't mean that for every other, is there a rule that you have helped this person in front of you, so you have to help everybody else, or you don't have to help everybody else? There is no rule like that, but we create rules like that. That's what actually curbs our empathy. So that's why what we need to do is deal with each situation by situation and give it a thought. And what I said is, his sensitivity went even higher, because even if you found out that somebody's situation, somebody's presentation of the situation was not totally accurate, he still wanted to help to bring about the change in the person. So that is a very high level of empathy and compassion. Okay? Yeah,
Trust you're talking about is in Ishwar, trust in Ishwar.
Yeah, trust is only, see, because everybody else is a little bit fallible, so the trust in life in general comes from your understanding of infallibility of Ishvara. That's the only real way to trust the universe. That's why then you stop comparing yourself. Oh, the society is so corrupt, so why should I be honest? All that, these kind of thoughts go away. You live from your values. You don't live from what others do. You see what I mean? And you know that the compensation system in the universe are perfect, right? Somewhere, the things, the opinions such as others are doing such horrible things and they are getting away, and I'm doing good things and nothing, I'm not rewarded for them. These kind of opinions show lack of trust in the universe. So these statements go away.
Memory?
Sorry?
Memory?
Yeah. What do you mean?
In aspects of a mature mind.
Yeah.
Is, so by memory I mean,
Can't remember.
you're losing your short-term and a certain. I'm trying to see, because it can get covered in other points. So I was just trying to see, certain. Let it pass.
No, I know what you could mean. So what it also, because we talked about the unconscious memory, so most of the time we are not willing to acknowledge that. So maturity of the mind is also looking into these unconscious memories and also whatever distortions are there to correct those distortions. That's a very big aspect of maturity.
You made it bigger than I thought.
I think that's reducing mechanical thinking and
Yeah.
making it in that.
So mechanical thinking refers to the habitual way of thinking, right? So, but you're right, that habitual way can come from the unconscious. Good. But sometimes it's just a habit that is developed not because of unconscious, but just because this is how the pattern has been. You develop the pattern over this lifetime. So here we are talking about some early life situations which kind of make your vision skewed in a certain way, which keeps coming up all the time. And sometimes you behave totally free from that, but some situations surface that individual, that insecure, the person who feels not loved, the person who feels not cared for, and your behaviors at that given point in time change completely. So in other times, yeah, because of the surfacing of the unconscious. So in other times, you may behave very differently. You see what I mean? Only some situations trigger something in you which then make you behave in a certain way. So the unconscious memory is slightly different from the habitual thinking, okay? Because it's not consistent. It's not like it's always coming. Some situations trigger it, and that's when your behavior just flips. You see what I mean? So the memory is what the taking care of the unconscious, which is stored in memory. And as I told you, it's not like you have to, generally, it's not like what I actually don't mean. If you need psychoanalysis, I don't have any problem with it. But what I mean by that is not that. What it means is that situations will surface in your life and you yourself will recognize that your response is not in keeping with what is called for in the situation. So that means somebody just said something small and it may not be appropriate, but your response to it is like, oh my God, you know, it's instead of just saying, yeah, this is not appropriate, what happens is it's like totally out of proportion. So that means there is some inner pressure that you're carrying, which makes you see this situation in a light which is much bigger than what it is. And you're not all the time doing it. It's only when certain situations trigger it. So if you actually study the pattern of when your responses are a little out of line, then you will see a certain pattern that, okay, these are the things which actually, you know, so there is something that I'm carrying within me which makes me give more weight to these external situations, and normally any adult can handle it, right? But you're not able to handle it. So that gives you an insight. It's not like you sit for years and years and years and try to find out everything which is in your unconscious. That's not what we mean. But if you need that, I don't have any problem. But what we mean is, right, that just dealing with, detecting this disproportionate responses and seeing where it comes from.
Dealing troublesome memories graciously. Because
yeah,
troublesome.
Yeah. I mean, you can say that. That's nice.
Neema, is this meant with the story half papadam?
Yeah, half papadam. I mean, either it can be an orientation from, and you have a tendency to do it all the time. But you're right, it's totally out of proportion, right? Yeah. That you get like this half papad and you create such a huge story of this person doesn't like me and has insulted me in front of so many people, and you know, it's true. It is a possibility.
And you live that story for a
long time, and you act on that story for such a long time.
Ability to share, share how you're feeling. I'm just thinking of the story this morning, and if, you know, Agni had just said, oh, I feel powerless, what's wrong with me? Then it would have speeded the process up much faster, rather than sort of denying it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So you need the ability to share your feelings.
Yeah. And also kind of go beyond your comfort. I think this is what Kurt was saying in his presentation, right? I'm fearful and I really feel, but in spite of that fear, I'm still here. Right? So that means you conquer your fears rather than act on your fears. So you act from your understanding, but you acknowledge the fear. So you're right, when the Agni and Vayu, they felt very threatened and they were ashamed in some ways, you know, or that they thought that they could do so much, and even that little thing they could do, they could have actually stayed there and asked, like, hey, what is it that now it doesn't enable me to do that? But they just, rather than facing it, they just retracted and they were, yeah. So facing situations, is covered here.
I think it's enough to work with for now.
Can you say again?
Okay, but it's interesting when we talk about growth, like we have done a few things of Gita, so much we have actually already talked about. So what I want you all to understand is human growth, when we talk about, right, is multidimensional. Please don't oversimplify what growth means. Right? Otherwise you would say, yeah, I'm a good human being. And it's true. Unless you were a good human being, you would not be here. But even the good human being still has a lot of work to do in different areas. And same thing, right? Arjuna was a great human being. He was fantastic. He had very high sense of ethics. He was intelligent. He was honest. He was sensitive. He had so many qualities. And still Lord Krishna keeps telling him that you need a certain type of mind to understand his knowledge. So even he had to work on it, right? Because this teaching of Bhagavad Gita is from Lord Krishna to Arjuna, who already was a highly accomplished person. So please don't think this is not Vedanta and only that is Vedanta. Because the minute you create that difference, this will seem hard and this is okay, this is all easy stuff. It's not easy stuff. This is the toughest stuff. Right? Okay. Somebody else? Oh wow, there's no stop here. Okay. Christoph.
I was wondering, I don't know, because the more values we have, the more complex it becomes to add something. But I was wondering, what I find very beautiful is that from extracting attitude in whatever situation, you try to have a contributing attitude.
Yeah, exactly. From being a consumer to being a contributor. That's also a very huge shift in your mind. Because we human beings, suppose we are born with what?
Neediness and smallness.
Exactly, smallness. So our whole way of transacting with the world is, how can I maximize my well-being? And, and generally I don't tend to care about the impact of that maximization on others, right? So that tendency when it goes and you say, hey, so much is given to me and what can I do in return? That's a very major shift. So that's a very major shift. So we will write that also.
Is that the value also?
So it's a kind of a value. I mean, it's the nature of mind, right? So change from consumer to contributor. Okay. So homework for till next year when you come to the retreat. You have to add it. It's not good enough. It's not really good enough to recollect.
Understand this quality or abide that quality?
But in order to abide this quality, you first need to recollect what is it that we have learned. This is the first condition. You need to understand that human growth is not a small thing.
Shall I add one more?
Yes.
Shall I add one more? To see divinity everywhere and by that love everything.
Yeah. So that trust actually is the result of seeing the infallibility of Ishvara. Otherwise you cannot have that trust in the universe. When you see Ishvara as all the laws, the infallibility, it pervades everything. That you can actually, otherwise it's impossible. Impossible to discover trust. So that requires understanding of Ishvara, divinity, absolutely.
Also.
Yeah.
It looks like a huge list. I was just counting. It's around 30 points we have made. And I read, I find it so beautiful from Swamiji. He was saying, start with one point. It's like you take a fork and you eat spaghetti, and if you have one, a lot of them are combined.
Yeah. But one thing is also that is very true. But it's also what one needs to understand is that we could be strong in some, because human mind is not, we are not like all uniform, right? So that means you could be quite strong in some, but not so strong in the others. So your job also in this, is a reflection of which are the areas where you need your own personal work.
Actually being honest with yourself.
Sorry?
Actually being honest with yourself.
Yeah, actually being honest. This is not just, oh yeah, this is what Lord Krishna is talking about growth and you continue to be the same person. So it's not about that. It's about actually seeing where are your personal lacks and actually working on it. Right? So Anna, you had something else?
Gratitude, right?
Gratitude. Yeah. So gratitude comes from trust, knowing the nature of Ishvara, change from consumer to contributor means that there is gratitude. Right? So it's kind of included. To move from here to here, you must have gratitude.
Do we have patience there?
Yeah, we did have perseverance.
Oh, so that's like patience.
It's kind of, ability to kind of, you don't want everything tomorrow, right? And you work for things that you want to get.
I was just going to say about gratitude that I find personally, if I really focus on the gratitude about all the gifts I have and how fortunate I am in my life, and then everything else sort of flowers from that, the willingness comes from that, the wanting to contribute to think about other people. So that for me is like the foundation, and all the other growth kind of comes from there. So that's my personal experience.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it. That so that's why then again it is connected to understanding Ishvara, bringing Ishvara in your life, and trust, discovering trust, and seeing that so much is done for you, and so yeah, it's nice. The only thing is that any value that you do, be intelligent about it, because generally what also happens, there is a flip side, right? Suppose you just say that, oh, I have nothing but gratitude, which is wonderful, but what it will, that is an excellent quality, but the flip side of that quality is what? Huh? You kind of almost deny your dissatisfactions. Sometimes, the flip side, I'm not saying it always happens. So, the helplessness, that dissatisfaction is something that you cannot cover it up in the kind of nicely package it as, oh, I have gratitude, because that dissatisfaction actually requires dealing with, right? Looking into it a little bit and doing some corrections. So that those corrections, that's why you have to be honest with yourself as to kind of detect your thought patterns of where they are kind of getting distorted, and then do the corrections. Because otherwise, this whole exercise is, yeah.
Do we have to speak the truth and think the truth?
Okay, yeah. So that, of course,
Dharma.
Dharma, on Dharma, and all forms of the Dharma. Okay, so this is an amazing effort, which is nice, and in fact, these are all the things that we have talked about in the class. Oh, people don't stop raising hands. Okay, wonderful. Go ahead.
I think to look at this all the list.
Yes.
It's the easiest way when to look at the areas where you get feedback from the universe, no? In your daily life. So this is the area where you see where I have problems with friends or with people, or and there you start.
Very good. What Yuta, did you understand what Yuta is saying? It's a very good thing, because many times in our own self-assessment of ourselves, we can be a little bit biased, right? We don't, because of this Johari window problem that Kurt was talking about, right? So that means, so I have to tell you one thing, which is interesting story, right? It kind of shows your hidden areas. So I go to, so many classes in Bombay. So in one of the classes I go, one lady was telling that, my husband is very, very dominating, and he's constantly dictating, and, I'm kind of the submissive one, and I'm constantly trying to follow what, I'm unfortunately following what he says. So that was her perception of things, right? So I was talking to her son. So I said, I just chatting with her son. And I said, who is more dominant, your mom or dad? Definitely mom. So that changed. Her perception of herself is, my God, I'm constantly being so submissive. And somebody else was looking at her, which was her own son, and had a totally different perception. So that means, this is what we call this amazing thing about Johari window, which is some hidden areas that you think that it is definitely like this, but actually, when somebody else is looking, it's not quite like that. So what Yuta is saying is, the world is nothing but manifestation of Ishvara. So suppose you are hiding from your own self and you are not even aware. Your assessment is not even accurate, suppose, but you don't know it, right? So what do? So that's where what Yuta is saying is, the universe has a mechanism system, feedback mechanism system. This is what we call karma and dharma. Karma is situations arise in your life which kind of give you a feedback of which are the areas which you need to work on, right? Suppose you don't have the habit, say the entire Mahabharata, right? Pandavas are very noble people, but what did they do? They let go. Let go, the cousin Duryodhana was pretty mean in so many different counts. But they just said, oh no, it's okay, they are our cousins, let go, let go, let go, let go. Several situations came up, but every time they said, let go, what did it lead to? Mahabharata, war. So this is why this let go is a very dangerous thing. You see what I mean? So that means the universe gives you a feedback that, hey, you still haven't corrected this situation, so that situation again crops up. You see what I mean? So that second time it crops up, you have to detect it. Hey, I haven't actually worked on it, so let me now do my work rather than letting go. So that is how the universe, which is an intelligent universe, it is nothing but knowledge and power. It is constantly interacting with you. But when you operate from your set of created world, you never take the clues from the universe. So we have to learn to kind of take the clues. There's a feedback system out there which is talking about, which gives us the feedback, but we close ourselves to that. So that is a good, very, very good point. Very good. Yeah.
So in this feedback, if there is an area in my life where I'm continuously suffering,
yeah,
then that
that requires some.
No, then that is a feedback which I may not be looking at.
Exactly. See, I'll give you one example. What's the time? 5:45. Oh my God, I haven't even done one verse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great summary.
It is a great summary.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good because all this we have seen in Gita class. Okay, and certainly I don't know if I'm helping you or not, but I'll give you one example, which is a true example. So how our minds is not able to connect events and see a certain order in them. And how to tune the mind to see, hey, what is universe actually telling me through all these things which are happening to my life, okay? So there was a situation where one lady came to me and she said that my parents passed away and there was, sorry. The father had bought some property in her name, right? Now, so she was the owner of the property, even though the money was paid for by the father. Okay. So now, so that was her property. So her brother kind of kept telling her, no, this property is not appreciating. This is not at all a good investment. So I'm going to sell it off, sell it off. So she didn't kind of intervene very much. She was young and she didn't really know anything. So the brother took the initiative and actually looked for a buyer and sold the property. So then what you would think is the property was in her name. So he would give whatever the earning was to her. But when it came to giving the earning to her, he said, no, but I have put so much effort into buying, looking for a buyer, and I'm the one who said, okay, this needs to be sold because it's not a good investment and all that. So he wanted 50% of that money. So, generally what happens is when it comes to brother and sister and all that, what happens? You just kind of say, yeah, who's going to fight, who's going to, So what she did is she says, okay, now if that's what you want, you take it, right? Now, she told me that 2 months after that event took place, there was a big robbery in her brother's home, and all the jewelry of his wife was all taken, wiped out. Now, when that event happened to her brother, the brother doesn't kind of connect the feedback from the universe that, hey, I have unduly taken somebody else, and so quickly, my wealth is gone. What he is only thinking about is, oh my God, these thieves in Bombay are horrible, and I'm going to put an alarm system now, and I'm going to tighten up my security. So what happens is, you're in a completely different world. You don't see connection between events because you are totally closed to this whole amazing connection of cause and effect, which is the universe. Absolutely right.
But this I didn't get really, because all of his view, he did right. He has a feeling I did so much.
So that's why.
It's right to get the half of the
See, well, this is what I say, that what you think is irrelevant. When the laws operate, what you think is irrelevant. So that means, this is why, I don't know if I spent enough time or not, when you interpret dharma, you have to be as close to dharma as possible. Because if you can say, I thought I was doing the right thing, but if it is not the right thing, the result is going to come according to not what you think, it is going to come according to what is the right thing. So that's why the whole growth requires you don't interpret dharma to suit yourself. Because even if you do that, then what? It will work against you. It's nothing to do with what you think. Right? Suppose this is what he thought, he could have been transparent right from the beginning. And he could have said, I'm going to take 50% and you keep 50% and I'm going to look for a buyer, I'm okay with it. He didn't come out with that. It was when the whole thing was done, he just kept it. That is improper. Right?
He even coerced her into selling.
He coerced her into selling, absolutely. So that means you have to be very careful. He presented it as, oh, the market is not good, and the profits are, this is not a good investment. That also, exactly, there's some coercion. Because she didn't initiate it. She didn't ask for his help. He is the one who initiated the whole thing and took away half from her. Absolutely. So in dharma, please don't think, oh, I think. Hey, you think anything you'll justify, yeah, I did it for that. I think I'm right. But then what? Dharma doesn't work like that. Dharma is another ballgame. It's a manifestation of Ishvara. So that means what? That there is a certain fire. And this is why your mind has to be lifted up to align to that and to understand it properly. Okay?
Dharma is also about boundaries.
Yeah, dharma is also about boundaries.
Because in a lot of spiritual
unconditional
circles, I mean, they say don't draw boundaries.
Yes,
just let everything happen. And so to me, that was a really good surprise about Vedanta, that there is a certain
boundary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because, see, suppose I let you cross your boundary, and I'm not even owner of this body. Ishvara is the, right? So suppose I let you cross the boundary and hurt me, I'm going against what? As a trustee of this body, what is my responsibility? To protect this body. So I'm going against dharma.
But this woman also went against karma, no? Against dharma, because she could say, hey, this is not okay, brother.
Yeah, so
she did not, she just said,
yeah, because sometimes you don't want to kind of, pacify, but I mean, you don't want to create a fight, and many times our decisions are a little bit passive. But the compensation is, and if she has not dealt with that problem, another situation will surface for her where she will have to learn to say, no, this is not okay. You see what I mean? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, let's go to the next verse, which is 27. Prashantamanasam dena yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutam akalmasham. So that means, suppose, and what? In meditation, and through meditation, we try to what? You remember? Saguna, Brahma, Vishaya, Manasa, Vyapara. So what is? I bring Ishvara in my life. And if I really bring in Ishvara in my life, what is the outcome? All this. It's not a small thing. It seems like a small word, a small sentence, but it implies all this. Right? So when it implies all this, then suppose you work on things. And as Carl says, suppose you start working on one thing, in order for you to really follow that value, so many other adjustments will be made. So therefore, what he says, that at some point, suppose you have sufficiently worked on that, then what? Prashanta Manasam. Prashanta Manasam is, mind will abide and it will be cheerful. What is the result of living these values? It's not that you're robotic and you're like, oh, this value am I following or not? Oh, this value I'm doing or not? But the pressures will begin to decrease and Ishvara will continue to, because there is a feedback mechanism, there is a certain tranquility in your life, which is not a result of a technique, but it is as a result of living these values. So therefore, what that the meditation leads to a person, what the mind which is tranquil, and then what the whose impurities have resolved and whose life is free from non-alignment, and that person, then what the knowledge is much easier to take place for that person. So right? So that's why instead of just going for small practices, what we need to do is what? Gaining a certain maturity. Very, very important, and working on ourselves. Right? There's no external person who can come and do just this job for you. You yourself have to initiate this process. Okay? So that means, now, one thing that Surya was telling me that I didn't make it totally clear, and that is that yesterday I said that once you make moksha as your primary goal, you don't need to give up all the other goals, but they subserve the main goal, which is moksha. So he says, but you didn't actually tell them what does it mean that the other goals subserve moksha. What does it mean? What does it mean to you?
So that all other goals go to help.
Excellent. All other goals kind of help this final goal of moksha.
So you need financial resources to come to India to this retreat. This is a part of the other. You need Dharma, you need all this supporting. It's the intention with which you are doing it.
Okay.
No?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, Vijay?
Unless you follow all this, you cannot evolve.
Okay, very good. So that means, as she's saying, unless you actually develop all these qualities, you can't evolve as such. But what will give you an opportunity to evolve? Yeah, absolutely. Because the life has to go on, challenges have to present themselves, and then you have to see where is your response. Where is it coming from? Right? So everything else subserve, it means that suppose you continue to do the job that you are doing. In that job, challenges will come. And you had previously a pattern of how you dealt with those challenges. Suppose you now want to cultivate a certain value, then you will do things differently. So that very role, that other role that you play, you actually don't need to give it up. That very role you can use to cultivate this value. That is what is meant by subserve. Subserve means you don't need to give up anything. So that means, suppose you go to work, right? And then suppose you say that, oh, I'm not interested in this. Suppose you say, I'm not interested in this work. So then, that time, what you have to do is, ask yourself, hey, if I'm taking resources from this organization, while I continue to take the resources, I have to do my best. That is what we call changing your attitude. It gives you an opportunity to change the attitude. And then it doesn't mean that you get stuck in that situation. If an appropriate situation arises, you can always choose to leave. That's not a problem. But while you're there, that time you kind of, instead of this constant messages of dissatisfaction, you can say, let me do the best that I can. So that means all the other roles that you were playing, you continue to play. Before they were giving you frustration, it was giving you dissatisfaction. Now is a time to shift. What? Turn it around. Right? In order to turn it around, so that means it gives you whatever you're doing in life, you don't need to stop doing the same thing which has been giving you difficult time. You have to learn to convert it to work for you. That is the meaning of subserving. So that means suppose relationships are a problem for you. Then what? Instead of saying, oh, relationships are so horrible and let me just extract myself, and then you have to stay there and detect what is it about relationship that I find so challenging. And then you need to do the corrections. So that means it subserves. Why? Because it's not a hindrance to moksha. It actually now helps in the pursuit of moksha.
It's a bit like Surya's thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There is a conversion. Absolutely. That great sorrow is converted into a huge contribution. Absolutely. Staying there and doing what needs to be done. And it's a like a shift. So that is what the subservience, the subserving other goals, what it means. Okay? Now, then what happens? Mind is without conflict and the knowledge of Brahman is, you're ready for that. Okay. Now, what is the, what is the result of understanding Brahman? Here he says, Sarva bhutasthamaatmanam sarva bhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. So here he says, Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam. What does it mean? That Atma that I am talking about, which I understand, is, where is it? Where is the location of that Atma? It's everywhere. Right? It is in and through every form. So that is what is something that you don't lose sight of. Sarva Bhutani cha Atmani. So that means there is a possibility that you can say Atma is pervading everything, but Atma is different from everything that it pervades, like space. Space pervades everything, but space is not stable. Right? So here you are reminded that Atma pervades everything, but there is no being which has a independent existence from Atma. Every other being depends upon Atma for its existence. So that Satya-Mithya relationship you are reminded of. Okay? Then he says, Ikshate, the one who sees that, Yoga Yuktatma, the one who has prepared oneself through this yoga, then ultimately, what is the result? Sarvatra Samadarshana. What? Everywhere, you don't lose sight of. See, what is interesting is, where are the differences? The differences are in forms and the attribute of the forms. Where there is no difference, the reality. Which two realities there is no difference? The presence of Ishvara, which makes that form what it is, and also what? Awareness, which is the same. So that means you do see the differences, but at the same time, what you also see where there is oneness. Then what happens? You are not into a delusion because you are not denying the differences in forms. But you are not only looking at the forms, you are looking at two other realities which are not within forms, which makes every form what they are. You understand? So that means any situation, any person, you have a total perspective and not only the partial perspective. And this is why, as Timu's question, which kind of struck me, right, all the time. So what this love, suppose you understand that, it doesn't mean that you just go and hug everyone and love everyone, right? Because the forms are different, the characteristics of those forms are different. But what you can do as a result of this understanding is, whoever is in your life journey at that given point in time, whether you have to draw boundaries or not, right? At least from your side, you don't carry resentment. You do what needs to be done, but you don't carry resentment. And you try to help the person to move to the next level. So this is where really Swamiji's life really comes to my mind. I already gave you an example of this person who was misrepresenting the situation to get money, and he still helped because he wanted change. Who is this person? For how long did he come in Swamiji's life? 5 minutes. He and Swamiji met for how long? 5 minutes. Doing what needs to be done. That nurse that I talked about in Bangkok, right? So she was just nursing him for 2 weeks. And then he was trying not to overwork her, at the same time trying to help her while he was in need. This is an expression of love. This is an expression of connection. It doesn't mean that you just love everyone. That doesn't mean that love comes from this understanding. That connection is a real connection. Then sometimes people used to come to Swamiji, and sometimes, they were so stuck and they hardly understood anything, and Swamiji would really nurture them and help them. So everybody else would say, but why is Swamiji spending so much time on this person who's and he would say that anybody who comes in front of me, I didn't call them, they came in front of me. So what it means is, there is equal order. If that person did not deserve to see me, that person would not be here. And while the person is here, let me do what I can do for him. That is my duty. I have to do that. I have to do my part. If I sit and judge, oh, he doesn't deserve my attention, oh, this one doesn't do that, well, it's a very mediocre person, full of judgments.
Can I ask a question about that? Because I'm in a situation where I work to help people.
Yes.
But I also have to pay rent and eat and
Sure.
care for my children.
Sure.
And there are many people who come to me and ask for help without payment, without paying. So I'd be delighted, but I don't have a benefactor, and so I need to take in the income that allows me to do the work that I do. So then, what do I do? Because is that Ishvara saying you should help this person, or is that me?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. See, it's a very tricky question because I think one has to be a little judicious because there are people who need help. Really, they may need your help, and they are not in a position to give you. But there are maybe people who are in a position, but they are not.
Often it's this.
You see what I mean? So that means that then it requires discretion on your part. Because suppose you assess that they are in a position to give something and you have to live, right? It's not like, so in that case you have to draw boundaries. And you have to say that no, this is my expertise and I have spent years trying to develop this expertise and this is a source of my livelihood. You can't just, treat me like that. But if sometimes once in a while somebody comes who really needs your help and is not in a position, then you can, you know.
So if I have a feeling of guilt when I say no, because I've learned to say no, if there's still a feeling of guilt,
You don't
is
need
this
to carry.
what I need to work on?
Yes.
That's the thing.
Yes.
Not that I have to serve them necessarily, but I need to work on me feeling guilty.
Exactly. See, this is a very common problem. What Susan is talking about is an extremely common problem, inability to say no. And when you actually say no, when it is legitimate, you would put so much guilt on you by saying, why did I say no? I could have done it. But actually, behind that behavior of not being able to say no, sometimes, it's not always, sometimes it is you want people's approval and you want people to think you're a good human being, because everybody likes a human being who doesn't say no, right? But that actually doesn't serve anybody, because the other person actually is not learning to respect the skills and the talent and your efforts. You see what I mean? So that means by saying that, actually not only you should not carry guilt, you are doing what needs to be done for your preservation, but you're also actually contributing to knowledge of the other person. Don't take it as you're doing something wrong, because this feeling of guilt comes from feeling I didn't do something right. But actually people also have to learn, right, to be responsible and to actually value things that that are valuable. You see what I mean? And not take it for granted. So the guilt has to go from there, and actually, yes, that is the work. You're not just taking money like that. That is profession. Right?
I'm just curious because I recognize something. In what value could you go there then? There's guilt, and that now I'm trying to find the value.
To transform it.
Yeah. Transformation.
To make this better.
No, it is actually non-understanding of dharma in some ways now, because it's a little bit of a confusion as to, like, I feel that my dharma is to be just kind of nice, but in that there are so many nuances, which I think that it's a little bit of lack of little kind of, you know, dharma doesn't always mean being nice. You see what I mean?
It's also compassion towards
Dharma,
yourself.
yeah. And dharma means doing what needs to be done. You see what I mean?
And ahimsa to yourself.
And ahimsa to yourself. Okay? So that means, at the same time, whatever you can do for somebody, just doing what you can do, but without, and when you can't, and when it's legitimate, don't feel guilty about it. Okay? Now, the next verse, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mani pashyati tasyam na pranashyami sacha na pranashyati. So here he says, the one who sees me everywhere and everything that exists here in me, for that person, I am never something which comes and goes. So that means, this is a very nice verse, because generally we think relating to Ishvara means what? Yeah, sitting alone and just praying or doing some puja. That we think that relating to Ishvara is like that. Now what has happened is, your understanding of Ishvara has expanded. And as a result of that expansion, whatever you are doing, if you are in alignment with the laws, you don't lose sight of Ishvara. So that means when I go to work and when I do what needs to be done, then I'm in connection with Ishvara. When somebody behaves in a certain way which is inappropriate, and if I'm able to draw the line without God harboring any resentment or hatred, I'm in alignment with Ishvara. When the sadness or whatever feelings come up, helplessness, I honor them and I convert them into prayers. I'm in line with Ishvara. So that means that you tell me one activity that you do or you can possibly do which is outside Ishvara. So that means your understanding has to expand to include everything within Ishvara. Suppose, I think Surya also taught, suppose some days you say, oh no, I'm going back to my habitual thinking, I'm not able to bring everything, these wonderful things that I've learned in Gita class. Is it outside Ishvara? That is also within the order of Ishvara. Lord Krishna keeps saying what? Shanai, Shanai. Slowly, slowly. I understand it is difficult. I know that your mind keeps going back to its habitual way. It's okay. Ishvara is not surprised by that. So why are you worried? Right? So that means this growth has to come without pressure. There is no human being who just can change tuck, 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 tuck. There is no human being. It takes time. You go back, then you come back. That's how wonderful. Why not? So that means when you understand the laws of psychology, laws of growth, how things work, there is a time lag between understanding and transformation of emotion. You relax. You don't put pressure on yourself and you don't give yourself messages of inadequacy. Oh, I'm not able to do it. Oh, I'm outside the order of Ishvara. You see what I mean? Don't do that. That, I go back, also is within the order of Ishvara. And I can try to come back, that is also within the order of Ishvara. So that means you never give up your life is lived with alertness and trying the best. But the perfectionist, now this perfectionist is a problem. Why is perfectionism a problem?
Because only Ishvara is on original power, so
everything else is fallible, right? And now suppose you want to become infallible as a human being. Not possible. Not possible. Because your vision is, no matter how much you try to see the situation from every side and this and that, you are governed by so many past causes that you can't completely free yourself from. Because there is some prarabdha, some patterns, that is astrology, there is a pattern. You have your own life trajectory. And within that, so many limitations, so many things. It's okay. It's not, But suppose you want to be perfect in everything. Can mind, even mind, can it be perfect? It's an instrument. It can be sharp, it can be mastered, but it can never be perfect. The perfection you can only find at which level? On knowledge and on infatuity of Ishvara. And yourself, Atma, which is what? It has never undergone any change and it is limitless. Here, in empirical world, there is no such thing called perfection. At the same time, you have to move towards what? Alignment with Ishvara. So that is still you have to do it, right? Just because there is no perfection doesn't mean you just do what you want to do. So that is what he says, that this person, for that person, I am never away. Now, Arjuna's question. Interesting question. He listens to Lord Krishna, carefully listens to everything that he has to say. Now he has a question. He says, Arjuna vacha yoyam yogastvaya proktaha samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chalchala siddhim sthiram. He says, there's all this maturity, growth, mastery and all that you have talked about is something that I'm trying to understand, but I'm not totally able to grasp it and also live by it. Why? Because the mind is chanchalam. Chanchalam is what? It is what? It is changing and it is distracted and it is incomplete and so that means what he himself, a person like Arjuna says that I'm listening to you, I'm understanding, I'm trying to understand you, but I haven't fully grasped hold of everything that you are saying, and not only grasp, but suppose I try to live like that, it is also not possible because my mind has been habitually looking at life very differently and has many values which are not exactly in alignment with these values. So what do I do now? And this is what the question of all of us should be, right? So, what do you think is Lord Krishna's answer? Okay, now he says the next one is exactly the same. He says, Chanchalam himana Krishna ramati bhagavatrudam tasyaham vigraham manye vayo nivasa dushkaram. He says, not only my mind is now chanchalam, it's all moving and it's all over the place. And it's all wrong, not wrong, but not exactly understanding as you're explaining to me. But I see that even to get to a point where I do all of this seems impossible. Why? Because my mind keeps moving from one thought to the other, and it is like Vayu. Vayu is the air. Can you try to capture the Vayu and get it to do what you want to do at one place? No, it is constantly moving. So this constantly moving mind, where I don't even know what my next thought is going to be. Suppose I ask, Ruxandra, what is going to be your thought 5 minutes from now? She's laughing. Is it a funny question? Right? So that means you don't even know what your next thought is going to be. How are you going to get your mind to only behave like this and not in any other way? He says it seems impossible. Not only now I don't have it, but it seems impossible for me to even cultivate a mind like this in the future. Because I have so little mastery over my mind. My mind does what it wants. Even though I want it in a certain way, it goes ahead and does something different. So what do I do? So Lord Krishna's answer we will see next time.
Neema, you close?
Yes. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate.